Good evening, everybody. It looked like we were going to have a little bit more ice and possibly snow, but we just wound up with having some rain, which we need anyway. But all in all, it's good to be home in our houses on a dreary Texas evening. So thanks for joining us. We have a very interesting speaker tonight, and we have a couple of updates to kind of share with you. So upcoming programs, Susie Hickman has been hard at work coming up with some really interesting talks. I just want to point out that we're doing something a little bit different next month. We have Amy Stewart. She's the author of The Tree Collectors. And this is a book that's gotten kind of national recognition, and I think it'll be really interesting. She's going to be presenting remotely, and I think that this will be something that will be interesting and a little bit different from what we normally do. We'll still meet in person, but she'll be kind of doing a Zoom presentation. And then, as you see, for the rest of the next couple of months through June, we have some really interesting topics. I just want to remind everybody to save the date, our March meeting. We're going to have a social hour to start, a chance to connect with fellow members, engage with the board, kind of see if there are things you're interested in some of our committees, have a little food and drink, and enjoy the Round Rock Library and its new facilities. Plenty of parking. So that's not an issue, and we're members and non-members, everyone come and, have a kind of good evening before we listen to Tyson. Upcoming field trips, the Godwin Preserve. We have a lot of other interesting field trips that the field trip committee has put together for us. If you're looking to kind of join, it's a very dynamic group. We're also looking for an upcoming chairperson. So if anyone is interested, we'd love to have you. Highlights from the last field trip. Some people do a polar bear kind of plunge and in the springs. Well, what we do is we do a polar bear hike. So here are the highlights from some of the things that were spotted during the New Year nature walk. And as you can see, we had a really good turnout for that. So something to think about. Usually we do this every New Year. So next year, if you have nothing to do New Year's morning, come and join us. As far as volunteer activities, remember that the third Sunday of every month from 8:30 to 11:30 at the Williamson County landfill, we're there for a work day. You don't have to sign up, just come, just bring, if the weather is cooler, dress appropriately, still bring water even though it's cool, your tools, and come help us get that into shape. In addition, there is a work day at the Monarch Way Station at Murphy Park in Taylor, Texas. It's located by the pool. That'll be Saturday the 18th from noon to 2. Again, there's no sign up required. Just, come, dress appropriately, and help us kind of start getting that into shape as we kind of we're coming into the spring. The other thing that I wanted to kind of put out there for people to save the date and think about, how they can volunteer to help us move our mission ahead is upcoming community education events. So here's a listing of the current events that we have scheduled that we've been asked to participate in. When we did the NIPSA, Texas Park and Wildlife, and HEB Native Plant Week initiative, we really got a great response. And I think the people who came and volunteered really enjoyed it. It's a very easy, fun thing to do. We usually will table, we'll have plant giveaways, we provide information. Whatever your level of of expertise is, it's fine. Just come, and it's a really good way to interact and promote our message. So if you're interested, you can, go in and contact us through the website. But going forward, we'll try to do the same thing that we did for the HEB NIPSOT event, where we'll see if we have a particular contact form or things that you could fill out in which event you're interested in, so this way we can kind of schedule everything. But I think we're having a very busy spring, and this is so far what's come in. We do have, other than the day of the event, opportunities to kind of help get our plugs and bags to get ready for giveaways. So there's a little bit of work that's needed prior to these events as well as at the event. So we're fairly flexible in kind of what it is you'd like to do. So, please look at your calendars and see if any of these dates might work for you. Tonight, we are going to be choosing a participant at random to receive this book, which was recommended by our speaker today. So stay online, and we'll pick someone out at random, and we'll mail you the book um, pretty much through Amazon. So we'll contact you, and we'll get that to you. And that'll be at the end. So fortunately or unfortunately, you kind of have to hang out and listen, and then at the end we'll kind of choose who it is. Thank you to Mark Stetzer, our treasurer, who's provided our monthly statement. This is our finances as of December. As you see, deposits and additions on top. This is really income from the silent auction that was held in our at our holiday party meeting in December. I want to thank everybody who participated, who donated, and who bid on certain items. This was kind of a little bit of a fundraiser for us, and it does help defray different types of administrative costs, etc. Again, if you're looking for us, these are different ways that you can get our information. We primarily contact people and send out information through our blog. So go to the website, you could sign up. You don't have to be a member, and then you'll get our information and our posts that come out to you. Always look and see where we are. Just like today, we had to call a remote meeting earlier this week due to the weather, and we emailed as well as blogged and posted, and also on Facebook. I want to thank Diana Wilson, who put the post in there to let everybody know. So hopefully everybody did receive the news, and no one's sitting in the library waiting for us. But it's always important that you just check and see where we're going, because we do kind of bounce around a bit from place to place depending upon availability. So what I'd like to do now is to turn it over to Craig Brushka and kind of give you a little bit of a background on Craig. So Craig has had a lifelong love of nature, from visiting scores of national state parks, national parks across the country on family vacations. During his 40-year career in construction, engineering, and facilities, he worked for 8 years for the Lake County, Illinois Forest Preserve District, overseeing the maintenance and construction of over 100 miles of multi-use countywide trails in the 35,000-acre preserve system. He oversaw the restoration of 1,000 acres of wetlands by removing field tiles. His crews battled invasive species from European buckthorn to purple loosestrife. Since moving to Texas in 2019 and settling in New Braunfels in 2020, he has worked to learn the plants of the Blackland Prairie and the Edwards Plateau. This includes attending various lectures and symposium on native Texas plants, and he also has completed the NIPSOT Native Landscaping Certification Program and is a Texas Master Naturalist. Boy, he's been very busy since he came here to Texas. He has helped create 5 native seed libraries in Comal, Hayes, and Guadalupe counties, and is working on adding 2 more. He is also the NIPSOT State Chair of the Native Seed Committee. So Craig is very passionate about starting native seed libraries So I think that this will be very interesting. And Craig, I turn it over to you so you can tell us more about your passion.
Thank you very much. I believe everybody can now see the main screen for the slideshow.
Yes.
Okay. So as we started, I helped with the hometown library that I grew up in just west of Chicago. We had it was started as an heirloom garden with heirloom vegetables, and we added natives as a function. So coming here, we started creating, our seed library, and the origin of that is very much how you proceed to do that. Um, and I want to clarify, seed libraries are someplace that you check out seeds, readily use it. Seed banks, and the two most important seed banks in the state is Botanical Research Institute of Texas in Dallas, and Lady Bird Johnson's Wildflower Center, where I volunteer uh, putting seeds into the seed bank. Uh, Very different than seed libraries, which are really public facing, whereas seed banks are research and protecting the genome. Simpler intent, but very different scope. So on seed library types, you have natives, which are specific to Texas or the ecoregion, vegetables, you know, first the type tomato, second subtype cherry, and third would be varietal. So you're tracking it that way, or you have a seed library that does both. Uh, when we set up Ty Preston, which will be the primary bit of focus from the talk, it was strictly set up as a native seed library, but we reserve future drawers for vegetables, but we just haven't gotten the partner to take on that side of the house. I'm familiar with it, but my focus is natives, so I wasn't taking that little thing on. As you can see, I'm doing many things across the state. So there are two types of tracking methods for a seed library. One is a seed inventory, and the other is seed index. Uh, and I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of those. Ty Preston staff did not want to do inventory, and we went to a seed index. Um, to do keeping track by inventory is only what is in stock. It requires counting individual envelopes. It's very time consuming and is almost immediately out of date as soon as the next person comes and checks something out. So it's a very hard system to manage effectively. It's not that it's a bad system, it's just more labor intensive than one would like. Um, so envelope inventories, plant type, number of envelopes, last inventory date. Variety on hunt is based strictly on what volunteers donate. The library has no control of what is submitted. Inventories are infrequent. In Austin, they're they're lucky if they do it once a month. Uh, and I'm not criticizing Austin. That is the reality of doing an inventory. Taking inventory, preparing and publish takes time. And the library at Ty Preston, we have a great partnership with, definitely knew that that wasn't how they wanted to go. We opted for a seed index, which is identifying species being kept within the library by scientific name and common name. And we mark our drawers by scientific names so that you have a single name that's assigned rather than the, upwards of 10 or 12 common names that a species may have. Accessibility by both indexes. So somebody who comes in who knows it by a esoteric name that may be in their part of Texas can look it up and go, oh, yep, it's here, and this is the scientific name. So it makes it very accessible to people who may not know it there. One of those is Dentura. I grew up knowing the plant's history as gypsum weed. Other people know it by other names. So it helps to have the proper name. So the index binders exist, but we're encouraging people to know the scientific name and track species as in stock and out of stock, very library-esque. The book is on the shelf or it's being used by someone. And the inventory of it, and I just did that at two different libraries, Ty Preston and at Mammon, which is Balverdes, by just literally walking down and looking in the drawer saying full, and does it have seeds? Does it not have seeds? And then a plan accordingly to restore those. So it's a different method. So Lindheimer chapter, which covers all of Comal County, meets at Ty Preston Memorial Library monthly, as well as hosting our monthly board meetings. And annually in November, the chapter holds member native seed swap. It's one of our big happy events we look forward to every year. And after the 23 event, we ended up with a large variety of unclaimed native seeds, plenty of donations. And this was the starting source for the seed library there at Ty Preston. They had wanted to do a seed library, but they didn't have an partner, an external partner to help take over some of the load from the staff. Ty Preston is the host for our chapter, fall and spring plant sale, and our NLCP 1 and 3 classes, which we hold on the same day. And their plant base, they hold an indoor plant cutting exchange in the window mounted base test tubes. So not natives, but part of the overall garden ethic. It has a great pollinator garden, which is a real pride and joy. The library had the old card catalog that you'll see pictures of, and they were using it more as furnishing, but it made it easy to use, but they lacked staff time, and the outside partner, we stepped in as a chapter and did that, supported in filling out missing components. The seed library focuses strictly on native seeds, as I mentioned, but there is space available for future use. So creating a seed library, first define the partner roles in creating a memorandum of understanding, an MOU. What the library provides, what the NIPSOT chapter provides. In Wimberley, the Hill Country chapter is involved, but the local group Keep Wimberley Beautiful was the real driving partner, external partner to the library. So I helped them get the Wimberley Seed Library up and running. So it was a joint Keep Wimberley Beautiful and the Hill Country chapter doing that. A seed library lending agreement, and I'll show example of that. And really is sort of just a pay it forward recognition. I am checking out seeds, and in return, when the plants grow, we will return, and the target is 10%. That happy number is based on leaving some for reseeding, especially and all annuals, bluebonnets, firewheel, those kind of annuals, or helping and then leaving seeds for birds and mammals and anything else that may be nibbling on it through the winter. Defining the rules, and I'll talk more on that, creating the scientific and common name indexes, printing out the NIPSOT plant sheets, which is from the NIPSOT database, which is on the state website, creating seed envelope labels, which was one of the early tasks to do, and holding a few seed events where the seeds are cleaned. And cleaning is, it is more of it's more of shucking or thrashing the seeds themselves. So each plant has a different way the seeds are held and released. Uh, bluebonnets, have a tendency to explode and disperse their seeds. So putting organza bags over them, or harvesting and pulling up the whole annual and putting in a brown grocery bag face head down, so that if it does explode, you catch it. And by holding a few seed events beforehand, you start creating the buzz, which was, and every seed library we've opened, we've had donations of outside people bringing in seeds the day we opened it officially and did the official kickoff, which is a positive sign about building that buzz. Preparing displays, labeling and filling the drawers, and the grand opening. So that's sort of the step-by-step process. And here is the old card catalogs, all of the pretty, the how it works sign, the seed library sign, and the covers to the common name and scientific name index. And in the bottom corner, you can see the future drawers, which were set aside for vegetables, but we may take another 5 drawers to as the library expands. So we're looking at over 80 species, and half of these are not commercially available. I mean, Native American seeds are a great resource and a great partner to NIPSOT, but we have seeds that they can't commercially viably sell. I've talked with Weston and Bill about the challenges they have, because they would love to provide the seeds that we provide in the seed library, but they just cannot economically harvest, clean, process, put in envelopes, and sell at anything that's close to breaking even. We've been talking about what we can do to help, and hopefully the seed committee will help bring some of that to the chapters going forwards. We created the scientific common name index and the native plant data sheet. So I'm sure you are all familiar with the NIPSOT native plant database, and then the ability to print one-page PDFs of each species. So we have a binder with nothing but the plant information, the common names index, and that is how we do this. So it's very hands-on. This is the map that we have in the binder. Most of Comal County is in Edwards Plateau, specifically the Balcones, Escarpment Canyonlands, the edge of a large portion of New Braunfels, and I live just the other side on the Comal County side, but I live in the Blackland Prairies that you guys are sitting on the boundary, much like we are here, where you have Blackland Prairie there, and then you have the other cut to your north. So you have, in your county, you have 3 different ecosystems, or actually 4 different ecosystems that are there. So your seed library is there in Ty Preston. We are trying to focus on Edwards Plateau and Blackland Prairie because that's the customers that are served. Uh, as I talked about the lending agreement, some libraries tweak the language or encourage it, but don't mandate it. And it is not something that we police. It's nobody going to come back and say, hey, you checked out seeds 2 years ago. Where are our returns? It is an honor system. But by having someone say, I, Craig Bruska, acknowledge that I'm borrowing packets of seeds from the seed library with the understanding that if the seeds successfully germinate and produce a new generation of seed, that I will return 10% of the seeds of that plant produced to the seed library. And the library decided to use printed name, signature, library card number, and they're still trying to get that incorporated into their user network because they have emails as part of tracking card holders. And that way it's a potential way of reaching out to them for other events in the future. But once again, it's more of if somebody signs an agreement like this, they're more likely to do what they're promising to do. So the seed library's public facing information, um, tracking species in an Excel spreadsheet. I've shared that and mailed off a copy of all of that information to do that. So we have the information on the spreadsheet, which has what's going on the envelopes, what's the scientific name and the common names and all the ecoregions. The common font has with its scientific name and the whether it's sitting in both ecoregions, only one ecoregion in the county, or it doesn't have any in the county because it's living someplace else. And then the plant database sheets. The library takes those Excel files, the lines, and converts them to Canva forms. Canva is a graphic layout program that the libraries is very common in their world. And they also make the drawer labels, which you can see on the front. And the labels either have it's a species drawer, a genera drawer. So like milkweeds, the entire family of milkweeds are under one drawer and the multiple species within it. And then we have the general range of species, which unfortunately I just realized I didn't have there, but we're doing that, the index sheets and other graphics. So these are how we do it. Marketing information. So our QR code is alongside, membership QR code is there at the library. So when you're there, it's encouraging you to become an IPSOT member. Nothing mandated, but it's shown there. Ty Preston made a custom envelope stamp. So when we're doing it, on the one face of the envelope is their stamp, and on the other side is the planting and plant information that you'll see. We've been very successful with the media. The paper of record for the county, the Herald Zeitung, which the Zeitung was the German language paper that Lindheimer was the editor for. So their article made above the fold there after our opening. So that was a very exciting time for us. And that led to Ken's 5, the CBS station in San Antonio, to do a piece on us on July 11th. I got way more exposure to it and credit than I deserve because you don't build a seed library with one person. You have to have community outreach. And then Nikki, who's my library counterpart, and I prepared an article, The Seeds of Knowledge, which talked about seed libraries. So we're at the Texas Library Journal as well. So we've gotten pretty good outreach there. And as I talked about on the indexing sheet, you know, in my Excel file, these are three ugly columns, but they, scientific name. And on the website, those are hot links to the PDF. So the PDF has the hot links to the NIPSOT database. In this case here, that link is sent to Ladybird because there isn't a NIPSOT page for it, because the red prickly poppy isn't in the nursery arena, but it does exist here in Texas. And I'm working to get seeds included into the database, but there's a whole process that we're working through. So we talked about all of its common names. So you can see on, antelope horn, we have, you know, 6 or 7 names that are there. And we highlighted Edwards Plateau and Blackland Prairie as the ecoregion that's available. The common name index is very long, is longer because every common name associated with it, but it brings you back to that same hot link to the scientific name. And here we only highlight the local ecoregion that works for it. You guys, and this is a model, but you can address it whatever way works best for you guys. I talked about the native plant database sheets. So you have the QR code, which somebody could look in the book, hit the QR code, and it'll take them back to that page, which has that information. It shows you the ecoregion map, the plant, a nice photo of the plant in bloom, and then all of the pertinent, information: soil, light, water, normal habitat, colors, blooming seasons. All of that information is available to the public. So, I talk to the library people because the card catalog is near the front checkout desk. So they regularly see people just looking through these pages, looking to it to expand their knowledge. And when we talked about the rules, we limited it to 5 packets a month and 1 packet per species. So so they would probably be able to check out 60 seed. If they were following all the rules, they would get 60 envelopes a year. But there are some things we do, and when we do cleaning. So donating the seeds, take ripe seed or the whole plant in a brown, paper bag. We discourage using plastic bags unless you're very sure that the seeds are dry, so you don't create mold problems. Label the bag with the plant name, preferably the scientific, where it was collected, what city, sort of get a sense of where things are coming from, when it was collected, and the donor's name being optional. Drop off the bag at the circulation desk or drop box. The library added drop box, which is really nice, so that I can come in and not even have to look for it. They just drop the envelopes in. So one of the things that's part of what I do, because I'm the point person for Lindheim, the Ty Preston Library, is it properly labeled? Because I've literally seen things that are labeled that I grow in my yard, collect the seeds in my yard, and know full well that what's in that bag is not what they say it is. It's probably in the family. It looks very similar, which means it's might be a non-native version of it, and they were told the wrong thing. I mean, it's not the first time a nursery had said something was X when it was really Y. Are they ripe? I had a case where somebody had given me a bag of blue curl, the whole plant. There, And I opened the bag, looked at it, and just, it was as green as it could be. Not even close to being ripe seeds. I held on to it, hoping that there was enough vitality left in the stalks to maybe get the seeds to go. That was not the case. So I ended up having to toss that in the compost bin. But, and then are they dry? Are they ready to go? And is it, so that's one of those. And as part of our education program, we do quarterly series on plant propagation, plant harvesting division. And we demonstrate and say, here's what a ripe bluebonnet looks like. Here's what a not ripe bluebonnet looks like, and get people to learn the difference between when a seed is ready to collect and when it's not. And I really encourage people to wait, even if most of the bluebonnets will have exploded and cast their seeds. Better to get 10% of the remain, get the little bit of remainer than to grab a whole bunch of it green and don't get any viable seed out of it. And is it in the index? If not, add it to the index, create envelope labels, print the labels, and print data sheets. Now, sometimes somebody gives us a donation, which is a wonderful thing, and we clean it, process it, but there isn't enough to warrant doing it to the index and adding it, because we don't. But we have partners, uh, Central Texas Seed Savers, which I'm sure many of you are aware of, or we have some sites that we collect from, the headwaters at the Flamel in New Braunfels. Jack Downey, who is the manager on that site, gives us seeds when he has surplus in many areas, because they collect lots of seeds there to use on site and also to share. And we turn around when I have small quantities, which I can't put in a library because we just don't have enough to warrant doing all of those steps. We share it with them to start planting it directly. So the plants get utilized, but they may not make it to the actual seed library locally. Uh, we've, and as I said, Lindheimer has opened up Mammon as our second one, and the Guadalupe chapter opened up Schertz, and the Hill Country opened up Wimberley. I've worked with Fredericksburg to get theirs going, and right now we're in the works to get Seguin as the second library in Guadalupe County and Garden Ridge as the third library for Lindheimer. Those things are coming up, and they'll both be open in the next month or two. We'll be sharing Excel files, envelope templates, Canva files, information, the MOU, the membership agreement, and surplus seeds to help create the initial seed library at those libraries. So we're very much in sharing the wealth and doing that. So if somebody is interested or looking, I've been to a Central Texas Seed Day event they did at REI, and the seeds that we donated to the Central Texas Seed Savers from Lindheimer and Ty Preston were actually at the event. I know because I recognized the bags for the seeds that we had in surplus. So it is very common to do that. Looking to expand the database to include seed library plants. I'm working with the webmaster and Claire on how we can do this. It's a work in progress. So I'm hoping later this year we'll start adding those there, but it's about getting the information to match the protocols and everything that's in the current database, and looking to see what other seed libraries have in their collections so that we can do that, since we're focused in the Central Texas area. So we've also created at the state level the seed library webpage. Uh, this was modeled after the NICE page and works great. And it's great work by our webmaster, the other Craig, which we get to joke about since I don't get to say I talk to Craig's very often. What they have in their collection, native vegetables or both. This is a work in progress. I'm going to be doing another update here in the next week or so, as I verify information for various local libraries and make sure that counties are reaching out. I've reached out to the various chapter presidents to get their information. And there were a couple of questions submitted beforehand. I volunteered at 2 local seed banks this week, and they may be seed banks, but I explained the difference between a seed bank and a seed library. At both, we had unidentified native seeds. That is very tough. We won't put them any in. We may give them somebody to plant so they can see what it is and go from there. But it's there. I'd recommend wildflowers.org, the Lady Bird Johnson site plants, because they have good information on seed information. It's not fully incomplete. So what do we tell our seed bank volunteers about the identity of real seeds versus the chaff? This is an ongoing challenge. I was at Mammon today doing it, and we went in there and we were doing Zexminia and getting the seeds, which look very similar to these, have a lot of, the tails and that. This is firewheel seeds. This picture is from the Ladybirds site. Not every plant has a seed photograph. I'm encouraging and trying to get good seed photographs to include in the native plant database as part of our photo collection as well. It is a challenge, but as you work with them, part of our cleaning sessions and the workup is it's also an educational outreach where you go and say, here is the plant, here's what the seed looks like. So we take them from seed head, whether it's a capsule, a pod, or any of the other forms that it could be in, and show it off. And toxic understanding of plants. Datura, which I talked about earlier, gypsum is a very toxic plant. I like it, but I don't have any little kids or pets in my yard, so I'm perfectly happy with Datura there. Mountain laurel is another one. And this is literally the warning that sits on the Ladybird site. The brilliant lead seed contain highly poisonous alkaloids, and this substance is related to nicotine, is widely cited as a narcotic or a hallucinogen, which has, depending on who used it and why they've done that. If you want to email me, my official NIPSOT address is craig.bruska@nipsot.org. As the chair of the seed committee, provide information to seed libraries, get on a mailing list for the Excel and Canva file links, other information to connect with your local library. And that's there. And I think there are some people in the chat, and I'm just not sure. Okay, they put out, there was seed library. Do you need seed borrowers need to have a library card? Ty Preston is a district library, which means if you are a Texas resident, you can get a Ty Preston library card. So I have my Braunfels library card as a resident, and I have my Ty Preston library card. So depending on the rules for the library, and some libraries, shirts being the example, uh, does not mandate that. It's a community outreach. It doesn't, you want to come and check out seats, you can come out and check out seats. Is there, I think I missed there, and I will stop sharing. I think I've stopped sharing. I might be wrong. Is there any other questions I can answer for you?
Craig, there were a couple in the chat here. One was who covers the cost of the consumed materials like envelopes, labels, and ink?
Our the Lindheimer chapter and the Guadalupe chapter have roughly a budget of $200 to $250 for the materials. Our key material is the envelope labels. We buy them in packets of 500. There are 10 labels per sheet, so that's 5,000 labels. So that's a lot of envelopes. We buy the envelopes in lots of 1,000. So 5 boxes of envelopes to one 500 sheet pack covers us. And that really covered all, setting up multiple libraries and getting things out there. And we're doing that. And that's an annual expense. So it's not a high material cost outlay. The library provided all of that wonderful panel boards, graphics that were on the seed library that we were showing was all of their handiwork.
Okay, thank you. One more question from the chat. What is the time commitment from the chapter in managing the seed library?
Right now, because I'm the point person for Ty Preston, I have another chapter member who is the point person for Mammon. I'm working on, so it normally takes one person, and that's scheduling the seed cleaning events, doing routine checks on the drawers. Once a week is normally all you need. And all they do is say, hey, I'm low on this, I'm out of this. And we go see what we have in there, because I work with both chapters as a member of both boards. I have the stacks, as my wife will gladly, enviously to talk about, that I have bags and bags of envelopes per species. So once you have an ongoing process, a seed event once or twice a month, depending on how much seed you have and how much community interest. And sometimes it's a very small group because of the weather today. This afternoon, we had 4 of us at Mammon Valverde's library doing cleaning, but we've also had 18 to 20 people at an event. So depending there, it's also, those events are being recognized by Master Naturalist chapters and Master Gardener chapters as part of their volunteer. Master Naturalists refer to it as RM, or resource management. Okay. That's one of the ways we get to use that. So we get the new class and ongoing members to get their hours. And nothing's easier to sell to somebody who wants to do volunteer hours in July or August is come to an air-conditioned library, sit in a comfy chair, and do a seed circle and stuff envelopes. It's much easier to sell that than go bushwhack a field when it's 100 degrees out. But so it's a small cost commitment to a chapter, and it really just needs somebody who's energetic, who wants to be there. And it really is sort of a learning curve. There are people who know plants better than I do, or a particular plant better than I do. Even though I've taken classes, done this, have lots of books on the subject. There are still things I'm learning every day about various species, the size, and getting to know what the seed looks like. So, sometimes you pop it open and you go, okay, that's the seed, this is the chaff. And the nice thing about, depending on how material breaks down, you don't have to have the seed immaculate. Seed banks want pure seed, no chaff. Where on the seed envelope, we got a little chaff. No worries, as long as we have spoons and we have various size measuring spoons, pinch and dash for the real smaller amounts, tablespoon, half, teaspoon, depending on the size of the seeds get tossed in. Sometimes we just count the seeds like we were doing today with Alamothon. I hope that clarified that, but I'd be more than happy to answer any more questions.
Looks like we've got one more. I might have missed one, but can you talk a little bit about the goals and activities for the state level seed committee with NIPSAC?
Right now, getting the seed library map for the state is one of the things I'm working on. Because I reach out, one of the things that was stipulated before we put any library or seed library in the base, that I make sure I have the permission of the library to put it in there, and that the local chapter is in the loop as well, so that everybody's part of that communication to the public. So once we get the seed library index there, the other thing I'm working on with Claire and the plant database is to work on improving seed propagation information and getting that database set up. I've been talking to the people at Ladybird in their greenhouses about propagation and getting theirs, but theirs are note cards and references and files. So we're seeing how to get that into a digital format to share with people. So it's part of adding more depth to what we know. And as I had pointed out, the book that they're going to be passing out, that Jill Noakes books, is anybody that does plant propagation, it is on their bookshelf. I don't know anybody that does plant propagation, seed propagation, who doesn't have a copy of the book. So it is a great resource. It could use another update, but Jill isn't in that position, and nobody has stepped up to take on that mantle. But we're hoping to use her information and other books to build that propagation basis.
Thank you. Then we got one more question here from Leland. How many seeds typically fit in an envelope?
It depends. So I mentioned the size of a dash, which is a measure. It's the micro measure. So people know teaspoon and the fractional of teaspoons. Pinch is an eighth of a teaspoon. A dash is a 16th. So it's a small quantity. And something like inland sea oats, we take the equivalent of 3 or 4 seed heads, so that you're mixing, especially when you're collecting the seed heads in like inland sea oats from multiple plants. You want to sort of mix, grabbing a little from this plant, grabbing a little from this plant, so that the biodiversity within the envelope covers a couple of different mother plants. So it's really about a working start for it, 20, 30 seeds on the smaller ones, a dozen Alamo vine. I think it's 4 or 5, Mexican buckeye or mountain, because it's sort of there isn't sort of a hard rule. We're not measuring it as a commercial product. We're there, but that's enough to do it. The other thing about seed propagation that I share regularly is that in the research I've read, some of the best research propagationists, eh, they're, they're reporting on some species, 25 to 30% is what they're doing, is getting, but part of that is the nature of native seeds. Bluebonnets being one of my go-to examples, is it casts out its seeds about 5 feet out in a radius, but maybe only a quarter of those, a third of those will germinate and grow next year. But they do that so that if it's a bad year and those bluebonnets do not survive, the Panhandle fire this last spring, probably devastated bluebonnets, but the seed bank from previous years will germinate in year 2, year 3. So it's very much, if you plant native seeds and you don't see anything the year that you expect the seeds to come up, put a mark down, know what you planted there, because if it didn't come up in 25, there's a good chance you'll see it in 26. And knowing what the seedlings look like is part of that process.
Thank you. That's all I see there, Nancy. You have, I guess I can turn it back over to you. I'm sorry, Nancy, you might be on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, just a delay from it. Craig, thank you so much for a very interesting talk. And looking at the chat, we've had a lot of questions about what are the local seed banks or seed libraries. So there was a lot of chatter going back and forth that the participants could see as to where they can go and resources too. So I think that it's really neat that there's like this local kind of buzz on the exact thing you're talking about and kind of getting the word out and starting to formalize this. So I think what you've given us, and you've also sent us some resources that we can kind of post on our website for people who want to more formally do this with libraries, can access. So thanks a lot. We appreciate it. And I'm sure if people have questions, they'll kind of reach out and, we'll try to connect or they'll find you.
Right. And I put my information out, I'm more than happy to do that. And if there's a library that their library wants to do something, I will come to libraries. I've been to Fredericksburg. I've been down. I'm in Floresville on Monday, helping them start the process. So I'm very much the Johnny Appleseed of native seeds in Texas is what I'm trying to do.
Okay, so I guess your motto is have seeds will travel.
It is. Again, thank you. If anybody has questions, Nancy has my email. I put it on there. So it's on the last slide on the recording. So please feel free to drop me an email. Thank you very much. You guys all have a wonderful evening.